Stop smiling at elephants. They remember your face. Nobody warns you about this animal. They warn you about sharks. They warn you about snakes. They put up signs near crocodile water. But the animal responsible for more human deaths every year than lions, leopards, and most other large predators on land combined, that one gets a sanctuary. That one gets a gift shop. That one gets children lining up to feed it bananas and parents taking photos and nobody in that entire moment thinking for even 1 second about what they are actually standing next to. That needs to change right now. African bush elephant. Largest land animal alive on this planet. Up to 14,000 pounds of bone and muscle. Shoulder height up to 13 feet. Tusks reaching 10 feet long, weighing over 200 pounds each. A trunk with enough muscular complexity to lift a felled tree or pick a single coin off the ground with precision. And when this animal decides to move at full speed, it hits 25 miles per hour. That number does not sound impressive until you understand what it means in practice. It means that by the time your eyes send the signal to your brain and your brain decides what to do and your legs receive the instruction to move, the distance is already gone. You are not outrunning this. You are not outsmarting this in the moment. There is no moment. There is only the 3 seconds before impact and the freeze response your nervous system defaults to because it was never designed to process a threat at this scale. Africa loses an estimated 500 or more people to elephants every single year. India loses between 400 and 500 every year, tracked federally, consistent year after year. Lions kill somewhere between 20 and 100 people globally per year. We make documentaries about lions. We name sports teams after them. We put them on warning signs and teach children to fear them. Elephants kill at 5 to 10 times that rate, and we put them on nursery wallpaper and stuffed animals and conservation charity logos. The disconnect is not just ironic. It is actively costing lives. The people dying are not reckless tourists who ignored warning signs. They are farmers, villagers, people walking routes they have walked 1,000 times through land their families have lived on for generations, land that happens to overlap with elephant corridors. The herd does not stop because a village appeared in its path. It moves through. It has always moved through. The landscape changed around it, and the people living in that landscape now absorb the consequences with their bodies. There are two kinds of elephant charges, and most people cannot tell them apart until it is too late. The mock charge is loud and dramatic. Ears fanned wide, head up, a rush forward that stops short. It is a warning. The elephant is giving you information. It is telling you that you are too close and you need to leave. The real charge communicates nothing because it has already moved past communication. Head drops, ears pinned back, trunk tucks under the body, no noise, no display, pure acceleration from a standing start. Experienced rangers describe the sound of a real charge as something you feel vibrating through the ground before you hear it with your ears, a subsonic pulse that arrives ahead of the animal. By the time that signal reaches your conscious awareness, you have approximately 3 seconds, and the documented human response to a stimulus at that scale and speed is to freeze, not run, not fight, freeze. In the only window where movement could have saved you, your own body stops working. A professional guide with 15 years of field experience was killed in Wang National Park in Zimbabwe. No mock charge preceded it. No warning behavior. The animal simply accelerated from stillness, and that was the end. A wildlife filmmaker with years of Kenya experience was killed by a herd he had worked near before. Animals he knew. A mahout in Kerala, a handler, was killed by his own elephant after more than 20 years together. Festivals worked, tourists carried, described by every person who knew it as calm and reliable. In recent years, researchers conducting long-term studies have been killed by individual animals they had observed for thousands of hours, animals they knew by name, whose behavior they had documented across their entire careers. No warning that witnesses could identify, no trigger, just a sudden catastrophic shift from an animal everyone in that field considered known. The pattern is not carelessness. The pattern is experienced person, known animal, no observable warning, fatal outcome. Over and over. Now add Musth. Most people have never heard this word, and that is part of the problem. Musth is a periodic hormonal state in adult bull elephants. Can last weeks, sometimes months. During musth, testosterone surges to levels that have no real comparison in other animals. A dark secretion called temporin seeps from glands along the sides of the head. The animal becomes something categorically different from what it was the day before. Bulls in musth have charged and destroyed vehicles. They have demolished infrastructure. They have killed other elephants, including members of their own herds. Wildlife managers in India and Sri Lanka maintain explicit no-approach protocols for musth bulls. Those protocols are not always enforceable when the animal is walking through a village. There are documented cases of musth bulls returning to the same road through a populated area for multiple consecutive days, and the only viable response available to the people living there was to go inside, close everything, and wait for it to pass. In 2022, a musth bull killed 3 people in a single week in Nepal's Chitwan district. A farmer on his own land. A man collecting firewood less than 300 meters from his home. An animal that had grazed peacefully in that same area for years. And now we get to the part that makes elephants genuinely unlike any other dangerous animal on this planet. The memory. Elephants have the largest brain of any land animal. Their hippocampus, the region responsible for long-term memory and spatial navigation, is among the largest relative to body size of any mammal alive. They recognize individual human faces, individual human voices, individual human sense. They carry specific experiences forward across decades and integrate them into behavior in ways that look, to outside observers, like something very close to deliberate intent. Research in Kenya documented elephant populations in areas that experienced heavy poaching in the 1970s and 1980s, showing elevated aggression toward humans that persisted across generations. Not genetics, behavior, passed down through herd dynamics and matriarchal memory. The elephants alive in those regions today never experienced the poaching directly. They inherited the response from the ones who did. The elephants that were never harmed are still acting like the ones that were, because the ones that were told them what happened and the memory never left the herd. What this means in practice is that the danger is not always a response to what is in front of the animal. Sometimes it is a response to what the animal remembers, and you have no way of knowing what it remembers. You have no way of knowing whether something about you, your smell, your movement, the sound of your vehicle, the color of your clothing, maps onto something stored in that memory across decades. You are standing next to a 7-ton animal with a grudge older than some countries, and you are smiling for a photo. Even researchers who have spent their entire careers studying specific elephant populations will tell you that predicting a sudden severe aggression event in an individual animal remains genuinely unreliable. The behavioral literature calls these unprovoked attacks. But that label may say more about the limits of human observation than about what is actually happening inside the animal. We are watching a cognitive system we do not fully understand, operating inside a body that generates forces no human can survive, making decisions at a speed that removes our ability to respond. The uncertainty is not a gap that more research will easily close. It is structural. It is built into what this animal is. None of this is an argument against caring about elephants. The grief rituals are real. The cross-species bonds are real. The multigenerational social complexity, the intelligence, the empathy documented across decades of research, all of it is real and all of it matters deeply. Keep the sanctuaries. Keep the conservation programs. Keep teaching people to value this animal because it deserves to exist and the world would be catastrophically worse without it. But somewhere in the decades of conservation messaging, somewhere in the effort to make people love elephants enough to protect them, the conversation quietly stopped, including the part about what elephants actually are, what they can do, what they have done, what they keep doing at a rate no other large land animal on Earth comes close to matching. The hundreds of people who died this year were not ignorant. They were not foolish. They had seen the documentaries. They knew the animal was intelligent and emotional and worthy of respect. They just forgot, for one moment, that none of those things make something safe. And in the gap between what they believed about elephants and what elephants actually are, they ran out of time. Stop smiling at elephants. They remember your face, and you will not get 3 seconds to remember that you forgot.